Hello, I am Tara, the author of the Diane Dime Cookbook, with my mom Jill, who also helped me write it. Today we are telling how mom raised two teenagers on $500 a month, her Penny Pension Mama series. But by this point, we have moved out of the house, gotten married, and she just finished going to move to Idaho, had a van full of furniture, pulled up to the house she was supposed to buy. We videotaped it. Sent her the videotape because there wasn't the internet back then.
Yep.
And we walk into the house and there is 6 to 8 inches of water standing in the basement all over, so she couldn't buy the house. So she went and looked, and there was a little log cabin that they were making into an office. And it had nothing, it was just a shell. Nothing in it.
Concrete floor and just the log walls.
Yep, and the people that were going to use it, it was a partnership that ended up breaking up, and so they just had this cabin that they were going to sell.
And it was like an office. They didn't have a kitchen, plumbing for a kitchen, anything like that. So,
Go for it.
Have I got to the part where Dad did the designing?
Yeah, you already talked about Dad doing the design and everything.
I think I did that. So I thought, well, we're talking here 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, extreme. Didn't think it, because most of it was done. I just needed the plumbing put in.
Well, the shell was done.
The shell was done. I just needed plumbing put in for and it was so tiny. It wasn't like I needed 3 bathrooms, and a large kitchen. It was just a little tiny bit. And then I need a little bit of sheetrock. Actually, half the sheetrock was done on the ceiling. I just needed the other half finished. So there wasn't a whole lot of work to be done. The electrical was already done. And I'm thinking, this will be okay. And so that day we went over the storage shed, and I don't know if I told about us going over the storage shed and getting some of the stuff off.
You didn't talk about unloading the truck.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we did that day then, I went ahead and bought that little cabin, signed for it, and we decided to I'd have to put the rest of the stuff in the storage shed because they had to put down flooring. I was going to need carpeting, and they were going to have to build up the floor to put the plumbing down. So there was no use putting all this stuff in there and then have to shift and move it and everything. So we put it all in the storage shed. But it really worked out the way I wish people could read our Moving on a Dime ebook, because I learned a lot at this move, and besides all the others we've made, on the important things you need to do when moving.
Yeah, you can go to livingonadime.com, click on the store at the top, and our Moving on a Dime ebook is in there.
Yeah, and so because I learned a lot of things, and I'm going to go through that in a little bit of detail because I think some people might be kind of interested in how I did that. What we did was we put the mattress on the very end of the truck. That was the last thing we put on because you put that on to hold things into place. And so we opened up the back. We took off the mattress because I was going to try to stay in this log cabin until, even though I had no plumbing or nothing, until they got it fixed. Because I'm thinking that won't be 6 weeks, won't be that bad for me to rough it a little bit. So we got the mattress out. Tar and Mike didn't have a refrigerator. They just moved like the week before into their house, and they had no refrigerator. So they pulled my refrigerator off because it was on the end, and set it in your house. Across the street. And then I think I got one rocker, one chair, and a light, an upright light. And I took another thing off that was really odd, and it'll make sense in the story as we go along why it was interesting I took that off. But back then the trash didn't give you trash cans when you had it. You had to buy your own trash can. And so I just bought a new trash can. So what I did before I moved, I didn't want to toss it. So instead of packing some of the stuff from my garage that I was going to need into boxes, I packed it into that trash can. That way I was saving, I wasn't taking up space by taking an extra trash can. It was full of things, packed full of things. So we pulled that off at the end of the truck because it was kind of items that could be outside a little bit. Pulled that off. And I'm telling you all these because you'll understand a little bit further in the story why I had use for all this stuff. And then we took everything else over we took off a table. I had a 1940s metal drop leaf table, and we unloaded that, and one chair for that. And the rest of the stuff, we had to drive to another town that was, about 30 minutes, 45
Yeah,
minutes.
our town didn't have any.
Didn't have a storage shed, so we had to drive all the way over there, unload the rest of it. And what happened, I really got stuck because we unloaded it. We had to hurry to get it unloaded, and it was raining, and it was a mess, and we were putting this stuff in there. Well, when we left Kansas, I left all the things I needed the most on the very end and packed the things I didn't need at the opposite end. Well, as we unloaded, what happened was all the stuff I needed got put back at the back, and the stuff I didn't need, like my memory quilts and things like that, were at the front of it. And I found out later, weeks later, that I'm thinking I couldn't get to anything I needed. So it was kind of an interesting situation, but we did unload that amount of stuff. Then on top of that, after we got stuff put in the storage shed, I happened to pack, and I tell everybody to pack your first day boxes. And usually it's about 2 boxes, and I put in a set of sheets. I put in a towel and wash rag for each person. I put in some dish towels and dish rags, and we go
Toilet paper, knife, fork, spoons.
Basic, just like 2 plates, 2 silverware. And we go into the list of detail in the moving book. We have all what I call my first day moving stuff. So I had 2 boxes of stuff. I had my toolbox with me because you need to put up beds and fix things when you first moved in. So I had that in the car with me. I had a little tiny, I've always had just a little tiny TV until just recently. So I had that in the back of my car because it was hard to pack it in the truck without it getting messed up. So we put that in the back of the car. For some reason we put my sewing machine in there because I was afraid it was going to get banged around in the truck. And I also packed my sewing box, my sewing box, my large sewing box with basic sewing things. Another thing I had in the car was my junk drawer. You don't know how much you need the junk drawer on the first day you move. In that junk drawer, I had tape measure, but I had twist ties. We were forever needing twist ties, string, tape, glue, and so I had that in there. So I was really kind of set. I'm telling you all this because I had a lot of things to, set up housekeeping that when I first got there. And I set up my metal table, and I had electric frying pan because I didn't know where all my pots and pans were going to be. So, I had the boxes labeled, but sometimes you have to dig through boxes. So I had my electric frying pan too, which came in really handy later on. And in Tawra's, in the refrigerator, I didn't want to ship it empty, so I put lightweight things like blankets. I had like my electric blankets, an extra pillow, lightweight Tupperware. I had bowls, Tupperware bowls, things like that. So I set up housekeeping in this empty shell, and I put my table in one area of the shell, and I set up my electric frying pan. I had no hot water or running water, but I had a hose outside, and so that I could get water, or I had a spigot outside. So in that garbage can that I unloaded, I had a hose. So I had it where it was kind of handy, where I could pull the hose through the window if I needed to fill up buckets and things in the house. And I kept that pitchers of water set on the table. And then I would use my electric frying pan to heat up water. I would boil it in that electric frying pan, then carefully pour it into one of my Tupperware bowls. And that's how I washed my hands, my face, did my dishes in there. I could cook in my little electric frying pan, and I had the popcorn popper too. I don't know why I had the popcorn popper. So I could cook some things in my popcorn popper, oddly enough, or at least heat up soup and things in there. So it turned out really handy. Well, I was doing pretty good, and I thought, okay, I'll call a contractor this first week, get them started. Guess what?
Idaho doesn't have
contractors. People that live
especially
in Idaho,
middle nowhere.
Yeah, unless you're in the 2 big cities or the couple of big cities, they don't have contractors. They don't have plumbers. Everybody is completely and totally self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Never knew that. I couldn't find anything, and of course we didn't know anybody in town, and finally we asked people, and the ones we asked, they said, well, we know so-and-so farmer over here, and he does a little plumbing. He's pretty good at it, and you could maybe ask him if he would do it. Well, I asked so-and-so farmer over there if he would do my plumbing. Yeah, I'd love to do it, but I can't do it till I get the crops in. This is like June. Crops get finished coming in like in October. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And I need a carpenter to do the flooring and that type of stuff. Yeah, I'd love to do that. I'll get that done just as soon as the crops come in. I was in a complete, we didn't even know what to do. It was so.
And our house was really small.
There was
Mike
just
and I,
no way.
You know, she could have moved in with us, but it was only, you know, our house was pretty small to begin with, and then all the stuff.
It was so small that they had to put their refrigerator on the back porch.
Yeah.
And so even with the refrigerator and the washer on the back porch, there wasn't even room to make a pallet on the bed or floor, really. You know, there just wasn't any room. And so I try not to panic here, but it was an interesting situation. So finally what I did was I called in a town.
You know, I really think we're going to set up a GoFundMe.
For what?
And we're going to do a GoFundMe and see if we can get $500,000 for you and I to just buy whatever house
we want.
And we'll just go build a house.
We can just walk in and move into a house like a lot of normal people, huh? Well, we finally, it was, how far was Grangeville? An hour?
Oh, it was like 40 minutes, yeah.
45 minutes, an hour. I finally found a sort of professional plumber there in this other town.
In the big town of 3,000 people in Grangeville, Idaho.
Yeah, I found but he was so expensive. And he charged by the mile. He charged the distance that he had to come. So I finally said, could you come and at least put me in a toilet? He said, oh yeah, sure. Although it took him about 2 weeks to get up there to get the toilet put in. So I now have this toilet, which I know you guys are going to think how exciting and wonderful for me, but you got to realize I had no running water. So I had a toilet that had a drain to it, but I had no water, you couldn't just flush it and I have instant just water pop in there. You had to have running water. So I had to pull the hose. There was a hole in the wall. And I had a spigot too. Did I have a spigot there? On the other side of the wall? On the inside. I can't remember.
I don't remember.
I think maybe I had him hook up an inside spigot that went back to back with the other one. So I got the hose, the hose that came out of the trash can, and I brought it inside, hooked it up to that spigot, and where the spigot was a half kind of a wall. There was a little wall thing they put up for the bathroom, just one little wall. But there was a big hole. They didn't get the sheetrocking done. So I'd stick the hose through where the sheetrock wasn't, and it hung over the corner of the toilet. And then I would use the toilet and flush it, walk around the wall, turn on the faucet, fill up the toilet through the hole in the wall, and then I would turn the spigot off. And this is how I flushed my toilet for 6 months.
There's a reason why we're now not real big on off-grid living.
Yes, I've learned a lot about off-grid living.
We've done enough bits and pieces of homesteading and off-grid living that we're just kind of like,
yeah, I'm not so sure. And I had to do this for 6 months. For 6 months, I had no running water, no kitchen, nothing. So I lived like that for 6 months, no running water, nothing. And we went. Thank goodness I was across the street from Tawra. A lot of times things don't work out and we get so disappointed and so upset. In that first house, I was really, disappointed it didn't work out. It was a cute little house. And this cabin was so much smaller. Mm-hmm. But there's a couple of different things. I'll talk about others later on in another video maybe, of how it was so perfect that I lived across the street from you. And
that's her version. No, I'm kidding. I'm only kidding. No, it did work out actually very well.
Because then I could run across the street and use their bathroom, use their shower if I had to, for that type of thing. And so, that part of it worked out. And God knew, I guess He knew I was going to have these complications because other things happened too that I needed to be across the street. But one night, I got to tell you, it wasn't a picnic living in that little log cabin like that. One night I had the mattress on the concrete floor, and this cabin was built straight on the ground. The concrete was flat. There was not a step inside this house at this point. And so I was sleeping. Well, to backtrack, I have a buggy-boo about bugs. I do not like bugs very well. And I mean, I'm terrified of bugs. Any shape or form, I do not like bugs. And when I was about Jack's age, about 9, I lived in California, and they had these bugs called earwigs. I called them pincher bugs because they actually would pinch and bite me. One time I stuck my hand in the dog food in the garage to get some food out for him, and I pulled it out. My hand was just solid black with these earwigs. Okay, at 9 years old, that could traumatize a kid. I went berserk with these earwigs. I hated them. So I was in the log cabin one night, and I didn't really have a comfortable chair, so at night I would lay on my bed and read before I'd go to bed. And I was laying there and just reading away, and I rubbed my foot against my leg. It itched, and I felt something else like itching my foot, and thought, what in the world? And I had white sheets, and I lifted the white sheet up to look to see why my leg was itching. There was literally like 2 or 3 rows of earwigs marching over my legs, across the mattress, down to the other side. Now, you remember I told you a story in the other video about how I woke up and I saw this big, huge, strange man standing at the foot of my bed, and I just, didn't react, stayed calm, cool as a cucumber. That was not true in this situation. I was screaming bloody murder. I could not get out of that house fast enough, hightailing it over to Tawra and Mike's. I know they thought I was crazy. And I said, it's in my bed. And I came unglued. And I found a spot to sleep in their bed not in their bed.
Wow. That's really getting adventurous.
In their house, that I wasn't going to go back to
Just slept on the couch.
I wasn't about to go back there and into that house till something was done. And you had to work hard. Well, then we went back over. They went over with me.
Well, and you have to realize we did not live in a big city.
No.
We lived in a town of 400, no groceries. So what this town had going for it was the hotel that used to be a hotel had been taken over by a UFO cult. And these people thought UFOs were coming to see them every day or something. This cult, that's all this town had.
We
Nothing.
We had like a 10 by 10 foot library, about 3 or 4 bars.
Yeah, and they had this little grocery store, but it was the lady froze the bread and the milk to sell because she didn't sell anything because
some of the stuff was like 5-6 years expired date on the canned goods. You didn't eat
to go to town was 70 miles each way to go get bug killer.
And it wasn't an easy drive.
Yeah,
it was through mountains, really bad.
And so it wasn't. It was an ordeal just to get bug killer.
Yeah.
To kill these things.
And so, but we went over it, and I think Tawra and Mike lifted up the corner of the mattress, and you remember they were just solid black. They had nested under that mattress because the concrete was cool underneath the mattress, and they'd come in and nested under there. Tawra used everything she had in her power, her big guns.
I used all the chemicals I had, which wasn't much.
And it wasn't doing it. And then you ended up using something powerful, I think.
Yeah.
And put around the outside. And finally we got rid of it was so scary. I'd never been so scared. You'd think I'd be scared with people hiding out in my basement and that, but no, the bugs were almost my undoing. But anyway, finally the crops were in. And they started coming in and working on my house. And I had a couple of, it took time because, they kind of worked around their own schedule. They would maybe put in an hour here, hour there. But I finally got the running water. But now I needed a shower and a bathtub. Or at least something to take a shower in,
Yeah.
And we had, even in the big town, when we drove into the big town, they didn't have Lowe's and, Home Depot. They had one store that was kind of like a Lowe's, And we looked and looked. I had to have a special size to fit in the bathtub. Didn't have the internet where you ordered anything. I didn't know what I was going to do now for a shower and a bath. We ran into more things like
and the
that.
next biggest city was Spokane, which was 4 hours away.
Yeah, so we just couldn't, it was just really hard. So finally the guy that was doing my plumbing, I said, boy, I wish I had an old-fashioned clawfoot tub like I had in my other house. I said, I'd give anything for that. We'd slap that thing in there and the plumbing would work real easy with it. And the guy just sat there, well, a guy has a bathtub out in his field if you want it. And I'm thinking, out in his field? He said, yeah. He said, my wife thought she wanted it for flowers, so we filled it with all this dirt and everything. It's not very good shape. And he said, but you can have it if you want. I said, bring on the tub. Just get it over here. That thing, if you can imagine, it sat out in this farmer's field for I don't know how many years, had been full of dirt, and I had him hook that silly thing up. I had to scrub it out. That's an understatement. And then I had to epoxy the inside. So nothing about this was easy. The next thing, after I got the bathtub in then.
So for the bathtub, we had to totally refinish the inside with a do-it-yourself
Epoxy.
refinishing epoxy kit.
I had to epoxy.
Paint the outside
Paint the
to keep it
outside.
from rusting.
Cover up the rust and do all of that. So I had to do all of that stuff, redo the whole tub. And so where there's a will, there's a way, guys. You say, well, I don't have the money to do this, or I'm not creative enough. I hadn't, this wasn't my profession redoing bathtubs, but I had to do it, and you just do it. But finally, we weren't totally done with the house yet, but we got the living room carpet down at least. I didn't have a kitchen or anything, but we got the carpet down. So we unloaded everything from the storage shed into my living room. So we just got everything piled in there. And then I didn't really have anybody to do my kitchen cabinets. And so I was buying, and I was trying to save a little bit of money too. I bought all these cabinets. I think I needed about, was it 15? I did about 15 of them, drawers and cabinets for my kitchen. It was a big kitchen for such a small cabin. It was a big kitchen.
Well, because it was open.
Yeah, it was very open. So we went in and we hauled in all these boxes, and I pretty much by myself, Tara, I don't know, you came over maybe once. I don't know, most of the time I did most of it, I think, myself. I had all these cabinets that you had to put together and assemble yourself, the kind with if you've ever bought those flat cabinet type things, you had to screw them all together.
Like the IKEA type thing now. Where you go to IKEA and you get all the pieces and you put it together.
But they didn't have it quite perfected back then. It was a little more complicated, the putting them together, where now, anybody can almost, this was way more very complicated. And I had to have like 2 arms to hold the things, and then I needed something else to do the screwdriver, and it was a nightmare. But what was really bad about it was, I had like a 4 or 5 foot square space in my living room I was doing this in, because there was furniture piled up around me everywhere and boxes and things. Well, then I started getting the cabinets put together. Where do you put them? In this house that's piled with furniture already. They stacked real good in the boxes, but when I started putting them all together, they started taking up room.
Well, didn't you at that time bring all your furniture back, or was it still in the storage shed?
No, that's what I said. All the furniture was in the living room.
No, but you missed that part, I think.
Oh, did I? I thought I said, yeah.
At that point, we
got the living room carpet down, then I said I brought the furniture from the storage shed.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's why I only had like a 5 foot area to work in. And so it was hard, because then I started putting things together, and I was trying to stack these heavy cabinets in different areas, because they were big cabinets like you have at regular cabinets in a kitchen. But eventually I finally got everything put together, and it was a cute little house, don't you think?
Oh yeah, it's really cute.
Yeah, I thought it turned out really, really cute. And
we'll see if we can find pictures. I don't know.
I do have pictures. I forgot. I was going to have Michael look some up. But anyway, so then that was the first 6 months that I was here. At the end of 6 months, after Thanksgiving, the week after Thanksgiving, I had everything, put into place. Then we went, and I did coating. No, they didn't come out that year. So that first year, though, you and I made 5 trips from the time I got there in June till the next June. 5 trips in 1 year on top of everything else, back to Kansas and Colorado. It was just, we kept having things happen, one thing after another happened, going back and
Grandpa
forth.
had, I think, 2 heart attacks in that time, and they thought he was going to die, so we rushed back here twice for that. And then I think David and Shayla moved once, so Mom went back to help them move or something, and I don't remember what the other trips
it was
were for.
just, we just had a lot of different things we had to end up. So it was a kind of a rough year, a little.
Yeah.
Oh, Michael would remember this one. We also, because that cabin was so small, and I would have not brought the amount of stuff I did if I'd known I was going to a much smaller house. See, at first I thought it was going to be a bigger house. We had to build a little tiny metal storage shed. I had no garage, no utility room, nothing like that. So I did need a little more space to store those odds and ends like Christmas decorations and, things like that. So Michael, Tawra, and I got this brilliant idea to put this small, it wasn't huge, but a small metal storage shed outside my house, on the side of my house, and it was a cute little storage shed, and we worked very hard. That thing, putting that storage shed together, was as bad as the cabins, and all 3 of us, and we'd lose the screws, and but we got this storage shed put up, and we just were so proud of that thing. I got all my stuff packed in there. The first snow we had, now we'd never been to Idaho before, you gotta imagine. We'd seen snow. In Colorado, you see snow. In Kansas, you see snow. And we had our first huge snow. How many inches did we get?
I think it was like 18 inches, yeah.
I think it was 18 inches. And I had a metal roof. And I was in the kitchen doing something, and I heard this loud roaring, rushing sound, and crashing and banging. I thought, what in the world? And I went running outside. All 18 inches of all across my whole one side of my roof of snow came down at once on top of the storage shed. It was just
smashed it in.
But you guys should know us by now. For every 2-3 feet we go forward, we go like 2 backwards, don't we? It's just smashed in the storage shed.
So Mike and I came over, and I remember we were standing on the roof of the storage shed. Because the snow had buried it, trying to shovel the snow off the roof of the storage shed. I mean, we're just talking about these clunky
yeah, just a little
sheds.
cheapy old metal shed, nothing fancy.
Yeah, so we were standing on the snow then between the roof and the storage shed as we were getting it piled off, and it was kind of piling up against. And
it was a mess. So we had an interesting first year learning how to adapt to Idaho and that type of thing. And so anyway, we really did it was like a different culture up there. And like Tawra said before, people
want to move to the country.
Yeah. And things
like that. They have no idea what they're getting into when they move to the country.
You need to maybe live there for a month or 2 before you make any serious decisions. Or a year or two. Through several climates, to summer and fall. So I think we had some more interesting things happen after that, because then the babies started coming along and stuff. So, and Tawra and Mike have talked about this, but I thought you might enjoy my perspective on how this happened, these things happened from a grandma's point of view and things and stuff, and how we started the book too, and different things. So I guess we'll stop here and then do that with the next one.
Okay. So please visit us at livingonadime.com. Check out our Dining on a Dime cookbook, and all of these tips and everything were born out of all this stuff that we've
been talking about. Yes.
Yep. All right. We'll see you guys later.
Bye-bye.